You are listening to the Postcast, presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and the Glebe Central Pub. Make sure you visit the Glebe Central Pub in the heart of the Glebe at 779 Bank Street and go to their website, glebecentralpub.com, and get your tickets for the Senators shuttle to and from each home game for the low, low price of $17. I'm Ross Levitan. With me, as always, Brandon Piller. And the Postcast crew is all reunited. We've got the Martian. You can follow him at Lalim's Martian on Twitter, following a 5-3 loss to the New York Islanders. We vent, we vibe. Pillsy, I think it's pretty strong in one direction after tonight's performance.
Yeah, we're venting big time in this one, unfortunately. But hey, Martian, at least we have a friend here. Misery loves company. It's not just you and I covering this absolute gong show of a game where the Ottawa Senators... Look, some people are saying bounces caused this game. Some people are saying, I don't want to hear about the bounces. When you are not able to beat a team that is down to 4 defensemen for the majority of the game, and you allow one of the lowest scoring teams, the Islanders in the bottom 5 in goals for in the league, to put 5 on you, there's just no excuse there. Like, you could say bounces, you can pull out injury, you can pull out, oh, we haven't played since Europe. I don't care what your excuse is. It's just downright unacceptable. And Martian, I don't know about you, but this is not the way I thought this game was going to go when those 2 defensemen were down and left the game early on.
No, me either. And this felt so much like, Pillsy, just like all the podcasts you and I have ever done together, where they just like, they start off kind of good and it's looking okay, and a couple things go their way, and then all of a sudden it just all falls apart in a short stretch of time. And for me, that was really the story of the game, was that probably 5-minute stretch where they allowed 3 goals. And for me, that's not what they needed. And Pillsy, what are we going to do here, buddy? Because it's getting pretty tiring, having to cover like some tough losses here like this.
Yeah, it's absolutely brutal. And this is not like the curse of the Sweden trip is when the Sens get back to Sweden. I was hoping they could nix that right away and come back with a win. But I don't know about you guys, and maybe I'm getting a little too ahead here. Ross, you're usually driving the bus, so maybe I'm jumping the gun here, going a couple on-ramps ahead of you. But the TSN turning point for this game for me was that disallowed Parker Kelly goal. I mean, 100%. If that Parker Kelly goal is allowed, that's a lot of momentum and you're building off that. But instead, the New York Islanders score right after, then they score again, and then they score again. And look, obviously, Sens podcast after a loss, that's the TSN turning point, that offside. But when it's a completely different, 6 guys on the ice when the offside is called, like none of those Sens players were on the ice. The offside replay was Tarasenko and Brady Tkachuk. It was the 4th line that scores that goal. The same guys, the same unit aren't even on the ice anymore. I don't know. I feel like it's classic moaning after a loss, but it's just ridiculous when you've been able to do full line changes and the offside being called back over a minute later still ends up having an impact on this game.
And that set the dominoes flying all over the place. Not many good to bad situations, like Parker Kelly misses his opportunity to put Ottawa ahead. Great shot above the hash marks, rips it. Then the Islanders, of course, have to score on their next shot. By the way, hadn't had a shot in 11 plus minutes. Their next shot after the disallowed goal goes in. Then Parker Kelly's next shift, he takes a high sticking penalty. They go shorthanded. And it's in the back of your net once again. Not only is that bad enough, so it's 3-1 at this point when it could have been 2-1 the other way, but then the Senators give up the fastest 2 goals against in the history of Senators hockey since 1992. Anders Lee scores short side off the rush 6 seconds later. Now, everything that comes after, we'll get into the 2 quick goals, but Martian, is that not symbolic of the Senators' issues? What could be a contained bounce ends up just opening floodgates and they can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, and the second one, it just happens so fast, man. It's like right off the face-off, Chikrin kind of jumps up and he kind of leaves Brandstrom. I think it was Brandstrom or JBD hanging a little bit.
6 seconds in, Martian, after the other goal.
And it's just like it just I mean, there was nothing the forwards could really do because it was an odd man rush and it was just bang bang, and just like that they were down. So I don't really know. It's tough, but there's definitely a reoccurring theme there where they just like let their foot off the pedal for a quick second, and the game gets away from them. They can't string together a full game, which is to me is the story of a lot of the losses that they've had this season.
Yeah, I mean, that third period was just tough to watch. They put the graphic up. I don't know if you guys did the same, but they put the graphic up right as the third period was starting. Islanders 6-0-3 when leading after 2 periods. And I was like, this is about to be the most boring trap, shut down, blocking shots type of game for the rest of this period. And it was. I think the Senators they only had 1 shot on goal for the first 12 minutes of that third period because the New York Islanders are like, we're just going to shut this thing right down.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty apparent if you look at the block shot stats from this game. The Islanders had 31 block shots, Pilsy. So, especially in the latter half of the game, they were blocking and getting in every single lane possible. So, you got to give them a little bit of credit for that as far as the Sens not being able to get anything through. But they have to. At that, the Islanders were banged up on the back end. We said it before. So, you got to be able to figure out a way to get around the 4 guys that they're rolling out there.
Well, no surprise, the team leaders, the game leaders in block shots, Ryan Pulock with 6, Noah Dobson with 5, Alexander Romanov and Scott Mayfield both had 4, and then some of their forwards were even getting in on the mix. Casey Cizikas with 3 and Hudson Fasching with 3. They were getting it from all over, buy-in from their players defensively, and that Ottawa just didn't have an answer for that. It felt like for the first 5 minutes of the third period, Ottawa was just chasing them around. They're playing keep away pond hockey style. And then finally, Ottawa gets their pressure in the offensive zone, but nothing really even got through to Varlamov until it was way too late on that last power play, down 2 with 3 minutes left. Varlamov makes 2 huge saves, but it's way too little, way too late. And even the games that end up being 3-2 like the LA game or 6-5 or 6-4 with the empty netter against Buffalo. These games are so much more lopsided than the score would indicate at the end of it. And it is just kind of tiring to just have to go through. But here you can actually pinpoint an exact moment, the Parker Kelly disallowed goal, where it's like everything fell apart from there. And as soon as they made it 4-3, that hope comes back. But really, they didn't do anything after the 4-3 goal where you're like, oh, this team is pressing. They're going to get another one. I have so many angles I want to take this, but I think that ultimately it comes down to when it matters, the Senators aren't able to produce. When the pressure's off, when they're either, down 2, down 3, then they start to mount some energy. And you could say that they lost their focus even when they were up 4-0. So when this team isn't in the thick of a 1-goal game, it needs to be able to at least keep the foot on the gas pedal or the foot on the throat when you're up 4-0 and step down and end it.
Yeah, and if you look at the most successful teams in the league, teams like the Bruins or even Tampa Bay, a little different this season without their goalie, but those are the teams that know how to close games out when they have a lead, and the Sens are just not really good at doing that yet. I don't know if it's if it's a thing where it's a confidence thing or if it's a mindset thing. I don't really know what to say about it, but it's definitely a theme for them, right? Don't you think? Every so often they'll give you hope when they're down because they look like they're going to come back, and then they just come up short. So I think you kind of nailed it there, especially Pilsy, your point about the Pajot goal being the turning point that changed the game script entirely. But the disallowed Parker Kelly goal. Kelly.
Yeah. I was like, Pajot's still looking for his first, and Forsberg stopped him on the breakaway there in the third.
Yeah, no, I meant Parker Kelly there. Sorry.
That was a nice save by Forsberg there, but unfortunately, that Lee goal is the one that I'm really upset about. That simply can't happen. That's such a easy. He's just going down the wing, just fires one low glove, and it beats Forsey, and that makes it 4-1. I don't know about you guys or people in the chat. The chat can get all over me like they typically do with some of my takes, but I honestly thought this team was coming back when they made it 4-3. I was like, they're going to grind down these 4 defensemen. Once the third period comes, these 4 guys are going to be so tired. The Sens are just going to be able to catch them on long shifts and make the most of it. Like, you're looking at the ice time for these guys. Pulock, 28:47. Dobson, 31:05. Romanov, 30:02. Scott Mayfield played 26 minutes and 19 seconds in this game, and the Ottawa Senators cannot take advantage. Like, it's these kinds of things. Like, not only, Ross, you talked about being able to play with the lead and close out games, and Martian, you're mentioning that too, but like, I feel like the Senators have had so many times where they've been gifted opportunities to take advantage of teams down bad, and they just squander it. Like, I said it again. I said it, but I'll say it again. There simply is no excuse to lose a game like this when a team that struggles to score is down 2 defensemen for the whole game. They put 5 on you. 5.
And they've got their backup goalie.
Yeah, I mean, but arguably Varlamov's playing lights out this year. Sorokin not looking as good as Varlamov has been.
He didn't necessarily have to be a Vezina candidate the way that
he did.
The way that the team played in front of him tonight. And it was the 6th time this season that the Senators have allowed 5 or more goals. Senators lose to the New York Islanders by a score of 5-3. And if we look a little deeper into the numbers on this one, they all kind of slant towards the Sens. And I'm not buying into any of it. I don't even want to hear that they, outshot the Islanders by 31-26. The power plays were both 1 goal. However, Ottawa squandering 2 chances in the third period to add to it. It's like, 1 chance and then the empty net. So they had the man advantage, but I think the other power play was in the first period, if I'm not mistaken. It was. And you're like, hey, so they score in their first power play and then what? They're just never going to score on another one in a game. They get their quota and that's it. They're like a cop giving out traffic tickets on the 29th of the month, just reaching his quota, and then he's going to pack it in. No more. Islanders win the face-off battle, not even close, 57%. Ottawa gets the more of the shot share, 5-on-5, 54.7, and Ottawa out-hits New York 18-15. But you wanted that number, I think, to be even in the 20s. I tweeted out saying, unpopular take, but I think this is the time where you use dump and chase, and you really try to wear down those defensemen who end up playing a ton of minutes. And they even had both defensemen, 2 of their top defensemen, take penalties in the first period. So Ottawa did their job in terms of doing that. And even Parker Kelly went after Noah Dobson, just trying to goad him into a coincidental 2 minutes each for roughing, but he couldn't. And those are the things I was hoping we'd see more of and more grinding down low. I think they really squandered this opportunity. The title of the episode here tells the tale. They didn't take advantage of a depleted team. I know you focused on the ice times, Pilsy, of the defenseman who played a lot. Well, the reason being, not only were they injured in the first period, Sebastian Aho and Adam Pelech. Adam Pelech played 55 seconds in this game. And Sebastian Aho, a minute 20. Yeah, they both got injured on their second shift of the game. So it's just like, you cannot lose this game and think you're serious. I don't think the Islanders are any better than I thought they were this morning.
No.
But I don't think that the Senators are where I thought they were this morning. This is one of those losses that makes you rethink everything about the season, the way the team's built, and everything around it. It's just one of those. And it always, I know that in the chat, it always comes down to the coaching. We see people in the chat saying it's embarrassing. And the only thing that I can really say back to them, it's just like, well, yeah, we haven't seen this team. We've seen this team a lot of different ways, but that's kind of the one constant throughout. So it's a tired storyline. I really don't feel like getting into it either, but it's just like, it's so frustrating when the same problems happen. There's no bearing down on their chances. They always kind of feel like they come up short. And then the second period is just a constant problem with this team. And I don't get it. Like, is changing the bench and having the long change like that big of a deal? I can't pinpoint anything else that changes in the second period where it would explain how poorly they do in the second stanza.
Yeah, and it was easy coming into this game too, Ross, to have false optimism about where the team is at because they're coming off 3 straight wins. But if you go back and you watch those games and you see what happened during them, specifically the Detroit game, and you're mentioning the second period and the collapses they had there, the lead that they gave up in that game is another example of them just falling apart for a short period of time and then basically having to play catch up the rest of the night. which is not what this team is capable of doing.
The Sens have a -8 goal differential in the second period so far this season. And I think that kind of tells the tale where, yeah, they've got a huge a surplus in the third period, but it just feels like a lot of times Buffalo, I keep going back to, where you come back and you score a bunch of goals in bunches late, but you're playing a bit of shinny in terms of defensive structure goes out the window when you're forcing it offensively. And then they just come up short. I don't think they've scored with the goalie pulled in years. I can't even tell you the last time.
Who knows the last time, honestly?
It does feel like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. It really has. Very frustrating stuff, but we do have some positives to look at from this game, some individual performances to look at. The Senators' 16th game of the season goes the way of a regulation loss. Still no OT losses. They can't squeeze a point out of any of their defeats. They're back to 500, 8 wins, 8 losses. Who were some Sen Central standouts? We'll get to that next. But first, we got to tell you about the Glebe Central Pub, the sponsor of the Postcast, the Glebe Central Pub. There are many now who are at the Glebe Central Pub who went to the game tonight. And the easiest way to go to the game is to leave your keys at home, head over to the Glebe Central Pub, 779 Bank Street, and just take the shuttle. Sue gets you there an hour and 15 minutes before the game. The bus leaves, always gets you there with plenty of time before puck drop. And then right after, just head to the bus, same place you'd get dropped off, and you're able to go right back to the GCP, all for $17 round trip. Go to the website, glebecentralpub.com, and you can actually buy Sens tickets on the Glebe Central Pub website, but make sure when you're buying for the shuttle, you go specifically to the $17 tab. Easy peasy, 2 taps, and away you go. So head over to the Glebe Central Pub, supporters of us, supporters of Sens hockey, and make sure you go in there for a drink, a bite, and make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you.
Today's postcast is also brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network and North America's #1 sportsbook, guys. You can bet anything from NHL, NBA, NFL, college football, college basketball, whatever you like, you can find it on FanDuel. And look, I know everybody's bummed about the Sens loss, but it's going to hurt even more for people to learn that Pilsey's parlay of the day did not hit today. I didn't tweet it out. I didn't get it out on time. I wanted to surprise post it with the big W, green numbers in the account, but I'm sorry to let everyone down. Another Pilsey's parlay of the day fails, just like the Ottawa Senators results here. But it's all done on FanDuel. You can bet spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the action. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Welcome back to the Postcast following a 5-3 Ottawa Senators loss to the New York Islanders. Now a weekend without Sens hockey, because why wouldn't they get an extra day off again? Next up, the Florida Panthers coming to town, and they're coming in hot. I know that they've lost their last couple games. They'll be hungry. It's a battle of the Kachucks again, the Kachuk suite. Everyone's already gathered. The family's ready.
Oh, yeah.
The Panthers are ready. I don't know if the Sens are ready, though. We'll find out Monday, but a tough way to head into the weekend with the Senators on the wrong side of a 5-3 result, and really just a disappointing game from the second period on. But however, there are Sens Central standouts, and with that, Pilsy, you got yours in first. Who are you going with for your first one?
All right. Well, Tim Stützle coming back from that highlight reel goal over in Europe. I thought he played a great game today. He finishes off with 2 points, a goal, and an assist. And he had a +2 night, 6 shots on goal, over 21 minutes played. He had a great Corsi numbers tonight. And then at the end of the game, Josh Norris goes for that cross ice backdoor pass for Timmy, but Varlamov got the pad save on it. He draws that penalty up against Barzal. I just thought this was a game where Timmy wasn't trying to do too much. He was just kind of using his skill in the right spots. And there was even one moment, I forget when it was, but we got our guy, John Abbott. We got him to use a Timmy Superstar reference. So, so you got Timmy having a good night when the Superstar reference pops out there.
Absolutely love that. Always a beauty, always a friend of the show, Johnny Abbott. And I agree with you. I thought Timmy was dancing tonight. I thought his wingers did a lot, though, to open up space for him. I thought everyone was kind of forechecking on that line. Definitely, for my money, the Sens best forward group tonight. And let's see if the numbers reflect that. They're the only line that played over 10 minutes together. They played 13 minutes and 28 seconds together at 5-on-5, had 20 shot attempts for and only 10 against, and we're out there for 1 goal for and none against. So the numbers back that up at 5-on-5, Pilsy, that Tim Stützle was a player to be reckoned with in tonight's game.
Yeah, he was awesome tonight, Pilsy. I like that pick from you a lot. And Ross, if you don't mind, I'm just going to jump right into mine here. And for me, it's Drake Batherson. And I mean, we're going to call it low-hanging fruit here. 2 goals, boys. The first one being on the power play on that nice little tic-tac-toe play. And then the second one was another nice, really, really nice touch play, I thought, by Tim Stützle and Matthew Joseph off the forecheck there, finding him in the slot. And that's kind of where Drake Batherson's always going to be effective, right? Get him in that open space and let him either rip it or make a nice move to make a play. So I think Drake played his game tonight, and I've been a little critical of him over the course of the beginning of the season here. So for me, Drake Batherson is an easy choice. He had 4 shots on goal. He had 17:46 time on ice. And he came out of the night even. So we'll give Drake my standout here tonight. He also took a couple faceoffs and he won one of them. So 50%. 50% in the dot too.
There you go. I mean, he could have even had more. He had 3 shots that missed the net and 1 that was blocked as well. So
yeah, and that one was a really great glove save there too by Varlamov, where he made a great glove save near the end of the game. It could have been a hat trick. So Drake had a good game today.
Yeah, and he kept his shift short, averaging 46 seconds per shift. That's good for him, and had a couple defensive plays, some created turnovers, which is good to see him on the positive side of that. So I like those picks. However, I'm going to go with a guy who's probably been a standout, I'd say the most, give or take, so far this season, and that's Matthew Joseph. 2 assists in this one, +2, had that shot on goal and 1 hit. But what I really like about Joseph's game tonight is the forechecking ability. We saw him create the turnover that led to Batherson's second goal of the game, because he got the puck out and then the little back and forth with, was it Timmy or Batherson? I think it was, it was Batherson's goal that he got it out to Timmy, a little back and forth. And I just thought he had a great game. He's always kind of tenacious and hungry, and he plays better with better players. So I love that line the way it is. And I could have given this just as easily, I think, to Claude Giroux. I think both those guys helped Timmy. They just need to get that other line going. And we saw Drake Batherson was put onto that line in the third period because it did not look pretty with Josh Norris and Brady Tkachuk. So I think they've got to figure that out. But at least they've got one line that's clicking, and all year long, it's been the line that Matthew Joseph's on, whether it was with Tarasenko and Greg earlier this season, or now that he's found a home with Timmy and Giroux. So more stick taps to Matthew Joseph. Thank God they didn't trade him earlier in the year.
Yeah, can you imagine the team without him right now? It would be pretty rough. He's the motor for, you said it, for pretty much every line he ends up being on. So
played over 20 minutes tonight too. That's big for him.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, and what I love about Matthew Joseph, he's got it going when he's in on that forecheck. Like, he uses that speed, he battles hard. Like the 1 assist that he had, he just totally outmuscles Brock Nelson, who's a big guy in his own right, and he outmuscles him, has the wherewithal to get it out front. And I think that's when he went. It was Joseph in the corner to Giroux. Giroux 1-touch pass to Timmy, and Timmy buried it like that. So that was a really nice play by Matthew Joseph, and that's what they need. They need guys like that. Like, they've got the skilled finishers. You look at Batherson, Norris, Brady, Timmy, Giroux, Tarasenko, Kubalik. They have all these guys that can finish, but if you're not able to have a guy that's willing to grind and work hard in the corners and beat out those loose puck races like Matthew Joseph is, those guys aren't going to get their opportunities. So Matthew Joseph, definitely an unsung hero that deserves some credit here.
And he's finally getting the ice time that's matching the quality of his play. In his last 6 games, 5 of those, he has his 5 highest ice times so far this season. His last 3 games, the only 3 games he's played over 20 minutes. He played 20:08 against Detroit, 21:11 against Minnesota, and then tonight he comes in with a performance with 20 minutes and 3 seconds. So good to see him rewarded for what's been solid play so far this season. Boys, before we wrap up here, a 5-3 Senators loss to the New York Islanders. I have to get into this line a little bit more with Norris and Tkachuk, and whether you want to call it Tarasenko or Batherson. It's more Josh Norris I want to talk about, because defensively, 2 turnovers tonight that end up in the back of your net. And then what's going on with the power play? Because he's being teed up. Jake Sanderson was making it very clear in the third period that he was supposed to shoot the puck, but he kept just either giving it back or stopping and looking around and saying, what am I going to do with it? Who's going to go tell him that he scored 35 goals 2 years ago and 85% of them were on one-timers? It's getting really concerning.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, Ross, I think we do need to acknowledge that teams have the scouting report on that now, and they are doing a lot better job of at least getting in lanes and creating a tighter gap towards Norris on the power play for that one-timer. But like you mentioned, there was a couple times where Sanderson was clearly opening up to feed him that pass back, and he's just not really getting in the right spot. He's not getting the right body position, and he's hesitating on the trigger, whereas, like, dude, you got that trigger like that. Like, don't hesitate. This power play, like, you're kind of the number one option there, Josh Norris on that side. Sanderson's doing everything he can to get it to you, and it just wasn't working. And then there's one instance, though, Ross, where I wish he had hesitated. It was on that Barzell slashing penalty on Timmy. One of the Islanders players broke their stick. So right now you're thinking, okay, you got an extra man advantage now. It's basically a 5-on-3. And Norris just out of nowhere just wires one that goes up and out of play and completely kills the momentum. I was like, oh, man, like, that's one time where you got to be aware of the situation and slow it down, get these guys' legs moving, keep them tired on the ice. And he just wastes one up above the netting.
Yeah, and man, I hate to say it like, but I'm pretty sure it all goes back to that shoulder injury and just him not being fully confident yet. And there was a lot of talk like about, possibly there being a mental aspect to him not coming back at the very beginning of the season too. And I don't know if that's part of it or what it is, but there's definitely a level of hesitation happening there. And then, I mean, he was pretty used to Thomas Chabot being the guy. He was the guy teeing him up on those power plays too. So I'm not sure if Sanderson's passes are just coming off a little different. He needs to adjust for that. But like, maybe boys just go to the shooting gallery and like take a bunch of practice time and figure that out, because we need him to be able to score in the power play. And that was another thing that we mentioned tonight where, they only scored on the first one. They had 3 opportunities. It would have been nice to maybe see them get at least another one there.
The first one was nasty, though. Batherson, little bumper play from Tkachuk. Passing play started with Timmy, goes to Norris. Norris ultimately gets the secondary assist on that. But man, he's got to pull trigger a little bit quicker. So hopefully Monday he'll have that opportunity against the Florida Panthers.
It's not just the power play too, right? Though, Ross, like, I don't know if you're noticing it. It's like at 5-on-5, he's less effective than he used to be. He used to be jumping into the corners and using his athleticism to get in there and get a little more gritty. I find he's lost a lot of sandpaper this season.
6 missed shots tonight, 2 that actually missed and 4 were blocked for Josh Norris. He did have 4 shots on goal in this one as well. So that's something we're going to be watching for on Monday night. We'll have another edition of Locked On Senators on Monday as well, before another critical divisional game against the Florida Panthers. The Panthers were on quite the streak, and now after one loss the other night, then the Jets shut them out 3-0 tonight at home. So the Panthers now coming to Ottawa following a 3-game homestand. I'm going to be very interested to see how this team gets either out of this funk or digs themselves even deeper. Pillsy, any final thoughts on this postcast?
Well, talking about the Panthers, Ross, I'm looking right now. The Jets beat them 3-0. So that'll be interesting to see how the Panthers respond to that, getting shut out, especially like you mentioned, the whole Tkachuk family will be in attendance in Ottawa. So
they're already here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they're already here. They're ready for this matchup between the Tkachuk brothers. I don't know if you guys know Brady and Matthew. They're brothers. They play hockey against each other. That could be a storyline that we might get into.
No, I think we should get into a different storyline. Martian, my final question for you is, what do you do until Ridley Gregg and Mark Kastelik are back? Because Roby Arventi, 7 minutes tonight, just 12 shifts. And on 2 of those shifts, the puck ended up in the back of their own net. So I think it's been a nice little sample size here. I think I brought it up even going into this game where it's like he's not maintaining, a top 9 position. That line just hasn't been as effective with Roby Arventi on it. Is it time to maybe reach into the Belleville pool Or do you just ride it out until those guys get back? And even then, like, is Castellic that much of an upgrade? Like, not as a third line center.
Yeah, I mean, who's there? Who are they going to bring up to play center?
Well, what I'm worried happens here, sorry, Martian, I'll let you get back in, but what I'm worried happens here is Rourke Chartier is this version's Dylan Gambrell, where Rourke Chartier is going to end up playing a lot of time at third line center, and it's like, okay, here we go again.
Yeah, I feel you there. Like, I mean, they're just kind of out of depth options really for it, right? Like, what else are they going to do? They need a guy who's going to possibly have some offensive pop, but clearly he's not getting it done on the other side of the puck. So the coach doesn't trust him. He's not getting any ice time. So, I mean, there's not a lot you can do. It's not ideal. It's not perfect.
It's not great. Not great too when your third line center takes 3 faceoffs in a game, and you mentioned it too, Pillsy. Like Timmy didn't take a single faceoff tonight.
Yeah, that's got to be the first time since he's moved to center that he hasn't taken a single draw. That's so weird.
Like, should we be concerned? Like he did have a maintenance day the other day. Like, is that not a bit peculiar?
It is definitely peculiar,
Yeah,
but
it's not nothing.
He's also has that athletic tape on his back of his neck that he's had going
all year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on there. I don't know if it's a neck thing or a back thing or just like a muscular thing, but either way, it's, again, like probably not ideal for him to have to need that every game.
No.
Yeah, and especially that makes me nervous. The only other time I've seen that style of athletic tape was on Josh Norris. And
what, for the 4 games when he came back last year between the rehab and the surgery?
Yeah, and the last thing we need is another centerman that's covered in duct tape.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Want to finish off with a piece of good news? You got anything?
Are we supposed to have good news?
Yeah, I'd really appreciate some right now.
The Sens are 3-1 in their last 4. They got another opportunity to get another point, a couple points on Monday.
4-2.
We don't need to go doom and gloom every game.
No, I don't think we have.
I know we haven't. But the vibes are always bad after a loss, especially after the fans have been waiting for basically a full week for a game. And like, so we've all just been sitting there waiting. And then like, just have to be let down. It's easy to get emotional about it. But I mean, they're only 500 after 16 games too, which is, everybody talks about, 20 games being that sample size that they look at to see if a team is good. They've played less games than a lot of teams in the league, but the American Thanksgiving line has come and gone. And if they say whatever it is, it's 80%, I believe, of teams that are in a playoff spot at American Thanksgiving make the playoffs. And obviously currently the Sens aren't at that point. So they're going to have to do a bit of a debunk on that stat.
So I don't want to be that guy because we do have games in hand. But they're also 7 points out of a playoff spot already.
Bro, they're last in their division. What are we doing talking about playoff spots?
They're tied for last in the conference. I mean, Columbus has played 5 extra games, but
5 more games. I think they'll be able to win a few of those.
I hope so. I mean, nights like tonight don't make me too confident. The Islanders are a bad team. Like I'm more confident than I was this morning. The Islanders are a bad team.
December is going to be. We're going to know by the end of December what they are.
Yeah, I think you're right, Martian, especially with how many games are being played. And it's not it's not a cupcake schedule in December.
No.
I'm looking at it now. There are a lot of good teams and not a lot of breaks here. So, and this is the Ottawa Senators have been living at home. I mean, 2 home games in Sweden. That's not their home, but they got a lot of away games in December coming up here.
They'll spin zone that's a good thing until it's not, and then it'll be an excuse when it's a bad thing. Steve G wraps it up just wonderfully here. The Islanders beat us with 4 defensemen in this game tonight. Scott Mayfield played 26 minutes for the first time in his career. I don't even have to fact check that. I can tell you that Scott Mayfield has never played 26 minutes in a National Hockey League game. And he did tonight, and they get the win. I'm sure they're feeling good about themselves while the Senators can sulk and wait until Monday when the Florida Panthers will be coming in. The reigning Eastern Conference champion Florida Panthers coming to the CTC on Monday. What could go wrong? We'll discuss on Monday. We'll have a full game day preview. A reminder that the Postcast is brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub, 779 Bank Street, right in the heart of the Glebe. Go visit them online, glebecentralpub.com, and go check out the Send Shuttle for $17 round trip. You can buy those tickets directly, glebecentralpub.com, and pop by the Glebe Central Pub for lunch, dinner, drinks, and vibes. For today, we say goodbye. Senators lose 5-3 to the New York Islanders. For Lalim's Martian, for Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been the Postcast presented by the Locked On Senators podcast and the Glebe Central Pub. Have a great weekend, Sens fans. Let's get some Go Sens Go in the chat. Sens lose 5-3, but they've won 4 of their last 5 games. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.